Hi everyone, my name is Mayu Watanabe. Today, I will talk about Singapore. At first, I will explain overview of Singaporean economy. Firstly, I will illustrate positive aspects. Singapore is a rich country and its economy is strong. We see this in every crisis. Singapore is affected during every crisis, but it returns to growth quickly. During times of crisis, people in Singapore use their time to study and improve their skills, which improves productivity after each crisis. Singapore is always on top of most rankings. Competitiveness, economic freedom, low corruption, and ease of doing business. The bureaucracy is very efficient. It's the only developed country in the ASEAN Economic Community. Second, I will state negative aspects. Its population is small and has a lot of old people. The government debt is 112% of GDP. This looks very high, but it's not as bad as it looks. The borrowed money is used to finance government assets and only 20% is owed to foreigners. Next topic is the founding myth. Singapore was very vulnerable at the time of independence in 1958. It had internal threats and outside threats. Not enough territory and resources, not enough people. It decided to join the Federation of Malaya, but people in Malaya were concerned about the high percentage of Chinese people in Singapore. In the end, the Malayan Parliament decided to expel Singapore from Malaya 1965. Also, Indonesia was against the formation of Malaysia and wanted to create a large Malay nation. So, the beginnings of Singapore were very difficult. No territory, no resources. The only solution was to develop their people. They must work hard together to survive. This is possible due to three principles: meritocracy, openness to anyone willing to join them, strong government that controls the island like a business. Next topic is history. Based on history of economic growth in the 20th century, we can see that Singapore's economy depends a lot on international trade. Every time there is international problem or crisis, the economy of Singapore stops growing. For example, the oil shock of 1971, the 1997 Asian financial crisis, the terrorist attacks in New York on 9 to 9/11, or the 2008 global crisis. During 20th century, Singapore depended too much on resources from Malaysia at the beginning. At first, they tried to fight this with a policy of import substitution, but it fails because a large population is needed for that. And as I said, the population of Singapore is small. After the separation from Malaysia, Singapore decided to focus largely on exports and increase employment opportunities. And so Singapore went from trade and low-skilled simple manufacture to intermediate and then higher skilled manufacturing to high-tech. As I said, there were many crises in this era and Singapore was affected every time but went back to grow as soon as the crisis finished. And then there are development of human capital. The goal of Singapore was to develop their human capital and adapt best practice from the Japanese and Westerners. Another focus was education. This allowed Singapore to move from low-skills manufacture to high-tech service in few decades. During 21st century, productivity continued to grow but very slow during the 21st century. In this era, GDP began to grow more with a higher number of foreign workers. Although exports kept growing, they slowed down in 2011. For this reason, Singapore tried to grow exports with its neighbors and far away countries. Next, a new market appeared in Singapore. With the growth of China and Hong Kong, Singapore had new markets to expand. In 2018, over a quarter of Singapore's exports and services went to China and Hong Kong. Another idea was to help the economy with tourism and new casinos. But currently, the casino business is not doing very well. Finally, I will explain history of regional trade. Singapore's exports grew a lot during the 20th century, but in 21st, they remained roughly the same. Singapore hoped to export more to its ASEAN neighbors. However, other ASEAN countries couldn't grow very fast, so they couldn't buy a lot of Singapore exports. So instead of exports, Singapore decided to invest in its neighbors and form economic regions. Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore created the Sijoli growth triangle. This project was only moderately successful. It was difficult to cooperate across borders and the exports didn't grow very fast. So the other strategy was investment. Most of Singapore's foreign investment is in the ASEAN region, but there is also a lot of Singaporean investment in China, India, Hong Kong, and Mauritius and Russia. That's all. Thank you for listening.